So, welcome, Dawn. Billy Bob and I have a few questions for you. Well, at least I'm going to, but he also is interested in knowing some of the answers, I'm sure. Now, oftentimes people leave their pets outside during the winter weather. And you know, I'm not sure that it's okay all the time. You know that wild animals stay outside all winter, but they also find a warm place to stay. Right. So I'd like to know a little more information about that, keeping, you know, them warm.
The other thing you need to keep in mind is that wild animals are adapted to the out of doors. A pet animal is adapted more to indoors, climate controlled, air controlled. They're not used to spending all that time outside. So typically when the weather is above freezing, most dogs can tolerate being outside for a longer period of time. If they're outside for a walk, exercise, that's going to build up their body temperature and they're going to be able to stay outside longer. We have a lot of people who like to take their dogs for walks, long walks every day, but moving does create some energy heat. Being let out into a backyard where they may not be expending energy, it may be harder for them to maintain their body heat. So we usually worry a little bit more when the temperature goes below freezing. If it's rainy weather and their coat is getting wet, of course that's going to be more uncomfortable, so shorter periods of time. But when we get more into the teens, single digits, I don't like dogs to be out more than what they need to be in order to do their business. So if you have a backyard and let your dog run around and play outside, maybe 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes if they're moving. Once you get below freezing, you're pretty much bringing them outside to do what they got to do and come right back in.
Right, right. Well, you know, we didn't get Billy Bob a coat or a sweater for the winter, and his fur right now is short. So he does take walks 3 times a day with Alan. They're usually gone about half an hour. And I wondered if, you know, should all pets have sweaters, or he can do it without?
That's a great question. Dogs that have a longer hair coat are going to be able to trap warm air in between those strands of hair, the fur, and insulate themselves a little bit. So longer hair dogs with a bigger body mass, larger breed dogs, may not really need a sweater. Smaller dogs, especially those dogs that have hair that grows, that then you cut back and the groomer will bring it pretty close to the skin, they don't have the ability to insulate themselves as much. And so a lot of times people feel for longer walks, they may enjoy a sweater. I have 2 little dogs not much bigger than Billy Bob, and they have that hair coat that needs to get trimmed every so often. The majority of the time, if I'm letting them run outside to go to the bathroom and they want to come right back in, I don't bother. But if they're going to go for a walk, they just had a groom, we do have little fleecy shirts that they get put on them just to help them out in the colder weather.
Yeah, and I understand that you should protect their feet because of the salt on the roads, and keep them from chewing on their pads because they could get infected?
Yeah, so the biggest concern we have with road salt is it's very irritating to their feet and their paws. If you want to take them out for a walk and you're going on roadways, sidewalks that have been treated, you might consider booties. Most pet stores will sell booties that have little Velcro closures so that you can easy on, easy off. They also sell these little rubber ones that look like balloons that you can just kind of stretch over their foot and stretch off, but it's more like walking on their pad versus a booty. Some dogs absolutely don't know what to do with them, right? So typically it takes a while for them to get used to. Another alternative is if you find yourself in a place where they have been walking on rock salt and you hadn't planned for it, just rinse their feet when you get home, wipe them off with a wet paper towel. And just like you wouldn't want to go to the ocean and drink salt water because it can cause dehydration and vomiting, you wouldn't want them to eat all that rock salt off their feet because it also can induce vomiting.
Mm-hmm. We keep a towel by the door. Yeah. Because just in case, you know, if it's raining, he used to not want to go out there if it was raining. Right. But if it is raining, we wipe him off when he comes in, his paws and his back and stomach. Sure. And the same with the snow. Is that a good idea?
I think once they're inside, they tend to dry up very quickly. I worry less about them being wet in an indoor temperature-controlled environment. However, I do like to wipe my dogs off too, because then they make little footprints all over the floor.
Yeah.
So there is a benefit to doing that.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
Sure. So I think one of the things I do worry a lot about in the wintertime is this is just lack of exercise. We see a lot of dogs gain weight in the winter. We're not outside as much. No one wants to be out at 6 a.m. in the morning when the sun isn't up. When it's super cold or wet, we don't enjoy being outside. So a lot of people walk their dogs less, or their dogs spend less time outside. And so we can see dogs gain weight in the wintertime, and then over the summer months when they're more active, they may lose that weight. What I tell my clients is that at some point in our lifetime, our metabolism starts to slow down. Depending on the dog, depending on the personality or the breed, that slowing down can happen at 5 years of age or 8 years of age or even later. But when that metabolism slows, we don't see them lose the winter weight in the summer. And so we worry a lot about them gaining a few pounds every winter and their weight then creeps up. So keeping dogs more active, trying to make sure you maintain their exercise schedule, and if you're not able to do so, sometimes cutting a little back on the food or the treats can help prevent that weight gain.
That's what I was going to ask about, was food. And if anyone needs to change the type of food in the winter or summer,
Sure.
or you're talking about the amount.
I don't typically ask them to change the food, but maybe sometimes if you have a scoop and you're doing a rounded scoop, maybe level that off in the wintertime because you don't need those extra calories. Sometimes we're stuck home more. Pre-COVID, you're stuck home more in the wintertime because it's cold outside and you're not working in the yard and you're not doing other things. You are more inclined to treat your dog or give cookies because you are home with them more, and all of those calories add up. So if I have a dog that's really prone to winter weight gain, I'll tell clients cut back the food 20-25% in the wintertime, just a little bit, and then in the spring, summer, when they're out doing more activity, go back up to their normal level.
Oh, okay. Another thing, what about their teeth? Because I doubt that Billy would let us brush his teeth, but
Sure.
It is important. We had a dog that had problems.
Yes. Dental health is probably up there in terms of when I'm talking to clients at annual wellness visits. My top 2 topics are how much your dog weighs and is that a healthy weight, and what's happening with your dog's teeth. Because dogs don't get regular dental cleanings like people do, they can end up with progressive buildup of bacteria around their teeth and gums. Yeah. And a lot of people can relate to seeing brown on their dog's teeth. If you never went to your dentist, your teeth would eventually look like your dog's. Many people, when you go to the hygienist and you can feel them picking at the teeth and they're scraping something that keeps catching the tool, they're removing that tartar buildup that's building up in between the crevices of your teeth. Dogs never brush their teeth and they don't get regular cleaning, so that builds up and it's visible. If we don't remove it, it will create gingivitis and it eventually will create periodontal disease that may end up causing them to lose teeth. Smaller breed dogs are at a higher risk of dental problems. They're genetically predisposed to periodontal disease. So my three-year-old, I still call them puppies, the 3-year-old dogs have already lost a number of their incisor teeth. And I'm not entirely sure why small dogs will get periodontal disease around those teeth more often. I definitely don't see it in larger breed dogs, so is it genetic? Is it because they don't bite and tear at things like bigger dogs might and they're not using them as much? I don't know, but it's a super common problem. So for smaller breed dogs like Billy Bob, I do recommend cleaning their teeth every year or every other year. Larger breed dogs, maybe not until they're older, when we actually see there's a problem.
But how do we do that? Do we take the dog into the hospital?
Yeah, when you go in for your regular wellness visit, your veterinarian should be talking to you about these things. If they're not mentioning your dog's dental health, ask, how did his teeth look? Do they need to be cleaned? A veterinarian that's really cognizant of the progressive or potential risks of progressive dental disease will talk to you about a cleaning earlier before we start to see changes to the gum structure. And some dogs, that's not early enough. They really should have them more often. However, with dogs, they do have to be under anesthesia. They don't say and sit still quite like we do. And so we have to use anesthetic agents in order to be able to do a good job. And again, we don't want the dog to worry about what's going on in their mouth. That's scary. I get scared when I go to the dentist and they're finding an owie spot. So for a dog who doesn't understand, it's easier. We can do a better job. But that does increase costs. So along with that, I also talk to people about pet insurance. Some pet insurance companies will provide dental care options as part of the plan. Pet insurance is probably the most underutilized tool we have in veterinary medicine. It's always something we think of when the dog has a big problem and we have a big bill, but you really want to start it while the dog is very young, before they develop dental problems, before they develop skin problems, before things happen. Because anything that we diagnose in a dog, before you get insurance becomes pre-existing. Just like our insurance companies, they won't cover those problems. So getting pet insurance while your pet is young, making sure you look at policies that maybe cover only accident and illness versus those that also cover wellness things like dentals is a good idea.
Yeah. Now, just to get on the side here, does this pertain, or any of this pertain to cats too?
100%. Probably one of the best kept secrets in the veterinary industry is that the majority of cats in the world never see a veterinarian. They're so very good at hiding signs of illnesses or problems. I'll have a cat come in for a regular wellness visit and they have cavities. Cats will get cavity-like lesions. They're not the same process that happens in our mouth, but they're very specific to the cat, and those teeth hurt. And I have had people come in with their cat. I've told them they have painful teeth. They have agreed to let me take those teeth out, and usually a week later when I call to see how their cat is doing, I get the, wow, they're running around the house and playing again. They are more affectionate. I see them acting better, but yet they never recognized the cat was acting sick or in pain. So a lot of times we don't notice the problems in cats, which is a good reason why cats should get regular wellness visits, just like dogs.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. My daughter has 2 cats, and she does take them to the veterinarian, but I was curious on, you know, do you do that with cats? They look so, like we talk about, they look independent, and they are. So you forget that they might.
They are so independent. You know, so my cat in my house, she comes when she wants attention. She begs for food when her bowl is empty. But there are a lot of times during the day where she's sleeping during the day, and I don't get to interact with her as much. So I think sometimes cats do kind of blend into the household, and sometimes we're surprised how much time passes before you realize. I keep saying my cat is 7, but I'm pretty sure she's now 9.
Well, let's see. I wonder what else I have here. That's I've got just about everything I asked for, but are there more illnesses in the winter with animals?
I don't know that we see more illnesses in the winter per se. I definitely feel like we see more injuries, more exercise-induced trauma type of things in the summer months because we're outside more. So I think the other thing to keep in mind is just to keep your dog safe, make sure they get their regular wellness visits, make sure we're vaccinating. Diseases like Lyme disease, leptospirosis, those are things where not all veterinarians are vaccinating for them. And so when you're out and about in the world, those are things your dogs are getting exposed to. Making sure your dog is on a leash, not running off into the woods. I've had dogs come back with impalements where they've gotten stuck on a dead piece of branch. I've also had a dog must have found a dead deer carcass in the wood and ate a hoof and ended up needing surgery. So there are a lot of little things that can happen that can be unexpected. So regular care, being safe, following the leash laws, all good reasons, good things to consider when you're out of doors with your dog.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I really appreciate everything that you gave us today.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's more, and if people have questions, they can always look for you on the website?
Yes, we can go to littletonanimalhospital.com and see our website. There's a client care address there, an email address where you can email us questions. If you have specific concerns about your animal's health, it's always going to be better if we schedule an appointment so that we can see the problem, review previous records, and have time to talk.
Great. So Billy, Bob, and I are going to say to everybody out there, take care of your pets because they are such good friends.